Just a pit stop. Now we go full throttle.
Garage Gang. It's Monday night, December 15th, and today was the kind of day where the market doesn't dip. It tries to throw you out of the car at 80 miles an hour and then asks you to act grateful about it. They're going to call it orderly. They're going to call it healthy rotation. They're going to dress it up in CNBC makeup and tell you it's normal volatility. No, today was a leverage crime scene. Bitcoin gets shoved through the obvious trap door. Longs get turned into roadkill, and right when retail is screaming, price finds a floor like somebody had bids waiting. That's the part nobody says out loud because it makes people uncomfortable. And if you can't handle uncomfortable, you're in the wrong garage. Here's what you're going to get tonight. Not a bedtime story, not a cope session, not a zoom out bro tweet. You're getting the real read. Who got hunted? Where the money actually went? Why the adoption headlines are getting pumped while leverage is still bleeding out? And what the next 24 to 72 hours actually looks like with probabilities, like a grown man. Because right now, the entire market is holding its breath for a data super cycle, jobs, inflation, central bank chaos. And if you don't understand the plumbing, you're just donating money to people who do. And yes, I know what you're really here for. You want to know if Triple X is back in the trench. Not because he's loud, not because he posts memes, because when the market is melting, he doesn't panic, he hunts. And let me make this crystal clear for the new people. Triple X isn't a porn star. He's a return profile. He shows up when the street lights flicker and he walks out with the bag. Tonight, I've got his picks. I've got the coins that refuse to die. I've got the AI agent play with real liquidity. And I've got the one wild card that could either print money or teach you humility. So here's the deal. Slide your chair up, smash the like, hit follow, and share this with the one friend who still thinks markets move because vibes. Because in the Guru Crypto Garage, we don't do vibes, we do truth. Now let's pop the hood and see what the hell actually happened today. All right, let's slow this down and put it on the lift. And because somebody is lying to you and it's not the chart. What happened today wasn't the market reacting. It wasn't fear, it wasn't vibes, it wasn't uncertainty. It was the market doing exactly what it always does when too many people get comfortable, overconfident, and over-leveraged at the same time. Here's the truth. No padding. This was a leverage flush, full stop, not panic selling, not a retail stampede, not some grandma dumping Bitcoin because she saw a scary headline. This was the system reaching into its own engine bay and ripping out every over-leveraged long it could find on purpose. Bitcoin didn't fall down the stairs by accident. It got pushed straight into the levels where liquidation engines live, the levels everyone could see, the levels everyone thought were safe. And once those levels got tagged, boom, margin calls, forced selling, stops cascading. Longs turning into market orders at the exact worst second. That's not emotion. That's not sentiment. That's math, cold, mechanical, predictable. While everyone on X was screaming sell and it's over, price stopped falling, not slowly, not sloppily. It hit a floor and stuck. Because if this was real distribution, price wouldn't have bounced. It would have kept bleeding while people lied to themselves and called it healthy, but it didn't. Why? Because someone was buying exactly where others were forced to sell. Pre-positioned bids, OTC absorption, retail panicked, smart money waited. That's the game. Going into the session, Bitcoin sat around 2.75 million BTC on exchanges, already near yearly lows. Then between roughly 9:40 and 10:30 a.m. Eastern, price got shoved from $87,500 down to $86,000. In under an hour, 110-meter BTC longs wiped 102-meter ETH. Longs wiped 325 meter plus liquidated total $500 to $1,000 BTC. Hit Binance that's forced selling. After the flush, Bitcoin on exchanges sat closer to 2.7 million BTC, lower than before the crash. Price down, inventory down. That is backwards. If people were actually selling, the shelves would be full. They weren't. Same with ETH, same with Sol, same with XRP. And while price was getting whipped, 212 billion in USDC parked into Solana. That's not fear, that's preparation. This wasn't the end of the world. It was the board being cleared. Now, here's where people finally wake up. This wasn't retail. Retail doesn't have the balance sheet. Retail doesn't have the tools. Retail doesn't have the visibility. Moves like this require power, precision, and permission. Only a handful of players on earth can do that. First, market makers. These aren't traders, they're mechanics. Professional liquidity firms like Wintermute, Jump Trading, Cumberland, DRW, GSR, Jane Street, Flow Traders, math shops, PhDs, algorithms operating across spot, perps, options, everywhere at once. They don't guess. They know where leverage is stacked, where liquidation engines fire, where stops are clustered when liquidity thins. They don't need price to crash. They need it to fall just far enough. Once liquidation starts, they step back and the machine does the selling. That's how a controlled shove turns into hundreds of millions in forced market orders. Second, exchanges. They see leverage in real time. They control liquidation engines. They earn fees when positions get wiped. They don't need to collude. They just need to let price reach the kill zone. Third, OTC desks and institutional accumulators. They don't chase. They don't tweet. They wait. When liquidation cascades hit and liquidity appears all at once, they absorb size without moving the market. That's why price stabilized. That's why exchange balances fell. That's why there was no second wave. And while you were panic selling BTC, ETH, XRP, they were calm, eating steak, drinking wine, watching dashboards light up, not because the world was ending, because the math was working. They waited for you to sell. If price is lower and shelves are empty, you're not watching a sell-off, you're watching a setup. You're not crazy. That tight feeling in the market, that sense something's coming, it is. First, jobs data. Delayed prints after a blackout don't guide markets, they expose positioning. That's why leverage got flushed before the number. Second, inflation. The bond market doesn't believe inflation is dead. Hot CPI, rates spike. Cool CPI, violent relief if leverage stays light. Either way, volatility is locked in. Third, central banks. The Fed is talking out of both sides of its mouth. And globally, the Bank of Japan tightening matters more than most people understand. Yen liquidity tightens, global leverage tightens. Fourth, derivatives, triple witching, options expire, futures roll, gamma flips, markets move for mechanical reasons, not logic. Jobs, inflation, central banks, derivatives all at once. That's not coincidence. That's a volatility cocktail. Professionals clean the table first, which is exactly what you just watched. All right, now listen very carefully because this is the part where most people get wiped after they think the danger is over. You finally understand what happened. You finally see the flush for what it was. And then you immediately make the next mistake. You start guessing direction, up or down, green or red, moon or doom. That's how amateurs die, because right now, direction does not matter. Behavior does. The next 24 to 72 hours are not about price targets. They're about who flinches first. Here's what actually matters, and it's not complicated. If price moves up and leverage stays scared, funding flat, open interest still crushed, that's real strength. That's spot buying. That's adults stepping in without borrowing courage. But if price pops and leverage rushes right back in, funding spikes, open interest explodes, that's not bullish. That's bait. That's the market rebuilding the exact same trap it just used to kill people. And traps don't get sprung once. They get sprung twice. Now let's talk about the shelves again, because inventory never lies. You already watched exchange balances drop during the flush. Now the question is simple. Do they stay empty? If price dips and coins don't flood back onto exchanges, that's absorption. That's buyers saying, I'll take whatever you're forced to give me. But if price dips and exchange balances spike, that's real selling. That's different. That's when you get cautious. This is the easiest tell in the world, and almost nobody watches it. Then there's cash. Follow it. If stable coins stay parked on chain, especially on fast ecosystems, that tells you capital is waiting, not running. It's not scared, it's patient. But if stable coins start leaving crypto altogether, that's fear. Right now, they're waiting. And then there's the big one, the thing that separates professionals from noise addicts. When the jobs number hits, when CPI hits, when central banks open their mouths, do not trade the headline. Watch the reaction. Bad news that doesn't drop price is bullish. Good news that can't lift price is distribution. Markets tell the truth in their reactions, not in the words wrapped around them. Always have. Here's the line you need burned into your skull. After a leverage flush, the market punishes impatience. It chops, it fakes, it bleeds time because time rebuilds leverage faster than greed ever could. And rebuilt leverage is just future liquidity waiting to be harvested. So if you're sitting there itching to get it back, if you feel that urge to jump in because you don't want to miss the move, congratulations. You just identified yourself as the next target. The people who win here aren't smarter than you. They're calmer. They wait, they watch, they let other people show their hand first. And once the market tips its cards, then they move, not before. That's how you survive this phase. And that's how you stop being food. Now let's talk about IAP because this is where most people completely embarrass themselves. You're going to hear idiots say, AI crashed today, AI bubble popped, money's leaving tech. No, that's not what happened. AI didn't die, the fantasy died. And those are two very different funerals. For the last year, anything with the letters AI slapped on it got treated like a golden ticket. Didn't matter if it worked, didn't matter if it made money, didn't matter if it was burning cash like a tire fire. If it whispered AI, people bought it like they were buying the future. That phase is over. What you watched today was AI growing up violently. And grown-ups don't get free money for promises. They get paid for execution. Now look at what actually happened. OpenAI drops GPT 5.2, not a demo, not a toy, not a press release gimmick, a full production stack, instant for speed, thinking for real work, pro for enterprise. One of those models outperforms human experts over 70% of the time and runs 11 times faster. That's not cool tech. That's a job replacement math. That's AI crossing the line from interesting to economically unavoidable. And while people are arguing about charts, Google quietly turns the browser into an AI operator, not a search box, an operator. You don't click links anymore. You ask the machine to decide. That kills business models. That kills middlemen. That kills entire SaaS categories. Then Disney doesn't panic. They write a $1 billion checks. They don't fight AI. They license into it because giants don't argue with inevitability. They integrate. Zoom quietly beats one of the hardest reasoning benchmarks on the planet and embeds AI directly into workflows, not marketing fluff, actual execution. And meanwhile, China is allegedly smuggling NVIDIA chips because compute is now a strategic infrastructure. Our oil, weapons, semiconductors, same category. This isn't a bubble. It's an arms race. So when AI infrastructure got hit today, it wasn't because AI is weak. It's because AI is too strong, too fast, and too disruptive. For old valuation models, margins compress, promises get audited. Only real operators survive. And now here's where crypto AI separates the adults from the children. During the leverage flush, most tokens folded like paper, but a specific class of crypto AI didn't, not because of hype, not because of influencers, not because of vibes, because they're self-running systems. Teo didn't stop because intelligence is still being produced. RNDR didn't stop because compute is still being used. FET didn't stop because agents are still executing tasks. And then you've got the next layer forming. Cerebro doesn't wait for permission. It keeps generating and evolving. Colon runs agent coordination without humans babysitting it. The swarm executes collective intelligence whether markets are green or red. Axabit behaves more like a living exhibit than a startup begging for users. These aren't AI coins. They're processes. And processes don't care about market sentiment. They either work or they don't. That's why they survived when leverage got wiped, because when the market shuts the lights off, speculation dies first. Systems don't. Here's the line you need burned into your brain. If something stops working when price stops going up, it was never real. AI isn't collapsing. AI is becoming mandatory. And every time a technology becomes mandatory, the market gets violent while it figures out who actually matters. That's what today was. So don't ask, is AI bullish or bearish? Ask the only question that matters now. Which AI systems keep executing when leverage is gone, hype is gone, and nobody's clapping? Because those aren't trades. Those are infrastructure bets, And infrastructure doesn't disappear just because the market had a bad day. That's where the future is being built, whether people like it or not. Or picture this: Triple X is sitting at Red Rock in Vegas, locals spot, calm, relaxed, zero rush. Screens open, GMGN up, Axiom up, no drinks, no noise, no panic. And the market is melting. Most people are doing the equivalent of walking into a casino, drunk, emotional, and trying to win back what they just lost. Triple X doesn't play like that. He plays like a professional who understands one thing most people don't. The trench is Vegas. And if you can't afford to lose the money, you don't sit at the table. Same rule applies here. So what did he actually do? He didn't wake up and say, today I'm trading Rismas, or today I'm all in AI. That's amateur thinking. He waited for the market to calm down and then asked one question: what's still acting right? That's it. First, he used BTC and Sol as his road surface. Not because they're sexy, because they tell the truth first. When BTC stopped panic selling and started behaving, when Sowell reclaimed structure without leverage rushing back in, that's where he took small, clean rotations in partial out. Nothing heroic. That's how the Sol stack starts growing. And then he looked into the trench, not to ape, to observe. He saw something like Rismas, a zombie, already dead once. Everyone wrote it off. But now, real volume, locked liquidity, higher lows after death. That's not buy this now. That's a lesson. When something dies, comes back quietly, and doesn't need leverage to move, that's a candidate. So he trades it like a candidate in partial out, no attachment. Then there's something like Pippin. This is the opposite energy, not a zombie, an adult AI agent, real usage, massive lock liquidity, absorbs instead of collapsing during a flush. That's not trench chaos, that's infrastructure behavior. So he trades around it, not all in, not overnight hope, just rotation while it behaves correctly. And then you've got names like III, brand new, high volume, high risk. This is the blackjack table. You don't bring your rent money here. He didn't marry it. He didn't chase it. He watched it. If it held the floor without leverage, it earned more time. If it broke structure or volume dried up, he was gone. That's not fear. That's discipline. And here's the most important part of the story. Listen carefully. Most of the day, he didn't trade anything. That's why 40 SOL became 79. Not because he found a magic coin, because he only played when the odds were clean and walked away when they weren't. Now, here's the warning label, and I'm going to say it clearly. Triple X is a professional. He has experience, discipline, risk control, and emotional control. If you can't afford to fly to Vegas and lose the money at the table, you don't belong in the trench. Same rule, because the trench doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your conviction. And it definitely doesn't care about your rent. You will lose money if you treat this like entertainment. So here's how you explain it to the crowd. You don't copy trades, you copy behavior. You look for assets that survive a flush, liquidity that stays real, leverage that stays scared, and exits that are obvious. And if you don't see that, the best trade is no trade. That's not boring. That's how you stay alive long enough to win. Because the trench is exciting, it's fast, and it's unforgiving. And the only people who make it out consistently are the ones who know when to sit out. That's the real lesson, and that's why the story matters. All right, let's bring Lulu in, because this is where the yelling stops and the tape starts talking. And Lulu's first words today were simple. This was a sucker's day, not because nothing happened, not because there weren't moves, but because most people traded emotion instead of structure. And the market punished that instantly. Lulu doesn't care about headlines. She doesn't care about narratives. She doesn't care how confident you feel. She cares about structure, levels, and behavior. That's it. On Bitcoin, Lulu saw the leverage flush hit obvious downside liquidity. And then something important happened. There was no follow through. Price tagged the level where longs were forced to puke. And instead of continuation, it based. That tells her the selling wasn't real conviction. It was mechanical. And when selling is mechanical, Lulu does nothing because the best trades don't come from panic. They come from confirmation after panic. Ethereum told a similar story, but weaker. ETH broke structure, tried to reclaim, and failed. That's not a buy. That's a wait. Solana, compression, tight range, leverage scared, no expansion yet. That's not opportunity. That's setup. Cardano, still heavy, lower highs, lower lows, no reason to be brave there. Now, here's how Lulu actually thinks. She doesn't need to be early. She needs to be right. If price moves up, she wants to see structure reclaimed and accepted, not just tagged, and she wants leverage to stay quiet. If price pops and funding spikes immediately, she backs off. That's bait. If price moves down, she watches whether sellers actually follow through or whether price just drifts lower without volume. If a key level breaks and price accelerates, she already knows where the next liquidity pocket is, and then she waits for that, not the middle, because trading the middle is how accounts die. Lulu's map right now is simple. If Bitcoin holds this base and reclaims resistance with acceptance, she looks for continuation after confirmation. If Bitcoin loses the base cleanly, no wick, no bounce, no games, she doesn't fight it. She lets it slide into the next demand zone and reassesses. Same logic for ETH, same logic for SOL. No prediction, just reaction. And that's why she survives days like today, because today was dangerous. Most people chased the first bounce, revenge traded the flush, or shorted after the move was already done. That's the worst possible timing. Lulu avoids days like this because she understands one rule that saves accounts. After a leverage flush, the market lies. It fakes breakouts. It fakes breakdowns. It punishes impatience, which is why her best trade today was simple: no trade. And that's not weakness. That's discipline. You don't get paid for trading every day. You get paid for trading when the odds are clean. If structure isn't reclaimed, if levels aren't respected, if the market is unclear, you wait, because surviving chop is how you're still standing when the real move shows up. People got smoked today because they needed to be right. Lulu doesn't. She waits for the market to prove it. And when it does, that's when she steps in quietly, precisely, without emotion. That's how professionals trade. And that's why Lulu's still standing while everyone else is licking wounds. So here's how we end this tonight. The market flushed leverage. The trench rewarded discipline. AI showed who's real. And Lulu showed you when not to trade. If there's one takeaway you carry out of the garage tonight, it's this: you don't have to trade every day to win. You just have to survive the days designed to take you out. Engines hot, safety off, let it rip.